the most substantial evidence ever haven't been, what is haven't been? Having been? I guess? Hello my lovely little morning doves. Welcome back to my channel. So I know it's been a little bit, it's been a couple of weeks since my last video, and that is partly because I've been busy and partly because I've been busy and partly because I have been doing a lot of prep work for this video. I've been doing a lot of research, I've been gathering photos and videos and sources. It was a much deeper well of information than I thought I was getting into, which was awesome. So, as you can probably tell by the title, I'm going to be talking about the Dogman today. I have a really big love of videos that are on the subject of things like hauntings and cryptids and folklore, as well as true crime. And since my YouTube channel was originally started so that I could create the content that I wanted to see, I thought that it's time for me to branch into that. So yeah, I'm going to be starting with the Dogman solely because the Dogman is something that is very rich in Michigan history, which is where I'm from. I grew up in Michigan. When I was quite young, I heard The Legend, which is the song that is about the Dogman. It was written in Michigan, and it was just chilling. It creeped me out so much when I was a kid and really captured my imagination. And ever since, it's been something that I've known about, but I never knew how prolific it was. So to start, what is a Dogman? The common kind of amalgamation of what the Dogman is a man, but like a buff man. So here we're gonna use visuals. So like think like a buff man, but like he's jacked, right? So okay, he's jacked. But his body is covered in hair, and it's usually like brown or grayish or black. And he has the head of a dog, but like a ferocious, like kind of feral looking, not really a wolf, because then it would, then we're getting into like werewolf territory. And it's not that. It's a man with a canine head, with bright blue eyes, and he's got really long arms and claws and stuff. So if we put that all together, here's like a better image of what that would look like, kind of based on people's imaginations. So the biggest thing that separates this from a werewolf, the difference is that Dogman does not transform. Dogman is more like a Bigfoot, where it is its own separate creature, than it is a person transforming into like a wolf or dog-like creature. It is said to have kind of a dark, low growl sound, or it screams like a person. That seems to be kind of the two common ideas, that it would either have like a growling, low, deep kind of vocalization, or a woman screaming. So that is the call of the Dogman. And I also have some audio footage of supposed sound vocalization from a Dogman, which I will play now. So what really started the legend off, or what really started to get people talking about it, was that a man named Steve Cook, who was the producer of Traverse City's WTCM radio station, decided to write a song. It is called The Legend, and it's really a combination of stories that Cook kind of took from local folklore around Michigan. So it wasn't necessarily that these stories were very specific about a Dogman, but he took stories of sightings of creatures and kind of just local creepy folklore and put them all together to create the song. Okay, so before I go into the mythology of the Dogman and anything deeper, let's listen to the song so that you guys can get an idea of where my journey started in all this and also what kind of brought people together to start talking about it in the first place. So here's that.
So the officer and I went out there to take a look at it. You know, he just tried to chew in around the doors. And you could see a dog print, you know, alongside the window there. And so it was, you know, obviously a dog.
Summer morning in early June is when the legend began. At a nameless logging camp in Wexford County where the Manistee River ran. 11 lumberjacks near the Gun Swamp found an animal they thought was a dog. A logger named Johnson grabbed him a stick and poked around inside. Then the thing let out an unearthly scream and came out. And stood upright. None of those men ever said very much about whatever happened then. They just packed up their belongings and left that night and were never heard from again. It was 10 years later in '97 when a farmer near Buckley was found. Slumped over his plow, his heart had stopped. There were dog tracks all around. 7 years past the turn of the century, they say a crazy old widow had a dream of dogs that circled her house at night. They walked like men and screamed. In 1917, a sheriff who was out walking found a driverless wagon and tracks in the dust like wolves had been stalking. Near the roadside, a 4-horse team lay dead with their eyes open wide. When the vet finished up his examination, he said it looked like they died of fright. In '37, a schooner captain said several crew members had reported a pack of wild dogs roaming Bowers Harbor. His story was never recorded. In '57, a man of the cloth found claw marks on an old church door. The newspaper said they'd been made by a dog. He'd have had to stood 7'4". In '67, a van load of hippies told a park ranger named Quinlan they'd been awakened in the night by a scratch at the window. There was a dogman looking in and grinning. In '77, there were screams in the night near the village of Bel Air. Could have been a bobcat, could have been the wind. Nobody looked up there. Then in the summer of '87, near Luther, it happened again. At a cabin in the woods, it looked like maybe someone had tried to break in. There were cuts around the doors that could only been made by very sharp teeth and claws. He didn't wear shoes because he didn't have feet. He walked on just 2 paws. So far this year, no stories have appeared. Have the dogmen gone away? Have they disappeared? Soon enough, I guess we'll know, because this is the time to fear. For another 10 years has come around. The 7th year is here. And somewhere in the Northwoods darkness, a creature walks upright. And the best advice you may ever get is don't go out at night.
So after the song became very popular, it was actually released on April 1st at his radio station as a prank, but people took it very seriously and started calling in to report sightings. But Cook actually states in a quote for Skeptoid.com that I made it up completely from my own imagination as an April Fool's prank for the radio and stumbled my way to a legend that dates back to Native American times. But yeah, so that's kind of how the word got out about the Dogman and how people really started having a dialogue about it. Going way back, canine and man hybrids are quite common. If you think all the way back to Egypt, the god Anubis has the body of a man and the head of a jackal, as well as werewolves, like I said, being incredibly common in cultures all over the world. And a lot of accounts that I've seen of people talking about the origins of the Dogman talk about skinwalkers, which is a Native American reference from Navajo tribes of people who could change their form, change their skin, and become something else. But I'm not going to talk about those or in depth because Navajo tribes are from the American Southwest, and I'm kind of focusing more on the Midwest and the Great Lakes region, and that's not where the Navajo would be, so skinwalkers geographically wouldn't have come from there. But a more likely Native American origin from the Midwest would be the Wendigo. And the Wendigo is a creature of legend that is supposedly a human that has undergone a magical transformation. They're said to be very huge with glowing eyes and long yellow fangs. They're supposed to have fierce claws and long tongues. And sometimes they're described as having just skin, and sometimes they're said to have like matted dark hair covering their bodies. But considering that kind of basic imagery, you can see where a Wendigo could easily kind of be placed in the same category as a Dogman based on basic appearance. Alright, so now that we have a kind of basic idea of where these stories might have started, I'm going to talk about some cases that I found that were very interesting, starting with the first one, the first documented case of the Dogman in 1887. So there were some lumberjacks in Wexford County, Michigan, and they believed to have saw what was a large dog. And for unknown reasons, they decided to chase it, possibly just for their own entertainment. They were bored, I don't know. But they were chasing it, and the animal ran and hid inside a hollow log, and one of the men went to get a stick and prodded inside the log to force the animal out, which it did come out, and it shrieked, and as I said earlier, they described its scream as something very human-like, and when it emerged, it stood on its hind legs to face them, and it was said that all of the men fled in fear, packing all of their belongings and leaving never to be seen again. Another interesting story that I read about that is also one of the more popular ones is from a man called Robert Fortney, and this is from when he was 17 years old. It was 1938 in Paris, Michigan, and he was fishing on the Muskegon River, and he saw a pack of feral dogs emerge from the woods. I believe it was said to be about 5 or 6. And he had a rifle with him because he had been hunting small game earlier that day, so he shot off a couple of rounds to scare off the pack of dogs, all of which ran at the sound, except for one. A large black dog stayed behind, and he said that it had piercing blue eyes. and he fires off another warning shot, hoping to scare the creature off, and instead it stands on its hind legs and stares him down. And he said in a phone interview, "It may be that I was just scared, but I swear that dog was smiling at me." So those are two very notable stories. I've also read stories a lot of time of people who have cabins in the northern woods areas. There would be claw marks 7 to 8 feet up on the side of a house, or that, you know, they would hear tapping on the window and see the face of the dogman, and it would be in a window that was 8 feet off the ground. So it's quite common to hear these stories of what would be an incredibly tall figure outside the window. In very few stories is there any notion of aggression from the dogman, specifically physical aggression, while it is very common to hear that he will stand and stare down the person that he has encountered. Only in a few cases do we hear that he attacks, or that he even will give almost like a bluff charge, that he'll charge the victim and then leave. Most of the media that I've found has been proven or is very likely a hoax, and those are the ones that are the most graphic in terms of physical violence, gore, and that type of fear-mongering. And to start with those types of accounts, I do have a clip from a so-called OnStar call from the side of a road. Again, this was in Michigan, of some people claiming to have swerved off the road because they saw a large animal and didn't want to hit it. And towards the end of the call, you can hear what is supposedly a dogman attack. So I'll let you listen to that now.
OnStar Emergency. This is Kyle speaking. How can I help you? Hello?
Something just ran in front of us on the road. We're in the ditch. We rolled over.
How many people are in the car, and is anyone injured?
There's two of us. I don't think we have any injuries.
Is the car on its top or wheels or what?
No, it's kind of sitting on its side.
Hold one moment, please, while I contact emergency services.
Okay.
Okay, the state police should be on their way in a few minutes. Is everyone still okay?
Yeah, I think we're okay.
What ran in front of you? A deer?
I don't know what the hell it was, but it was big. It looked like a great big dog. Standing up.
Was it a bear, maybe?
Maybe. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Sir? Hello? Are you still there? Sir?
Okay, so I'm going to stop the audio there, but I found the audio on one website, and I have also found a video containing the audio on YouTube, and in both cases the audio ends at 1 minute and 28 seconds, and then a part of the song is played, and then it goes on to just empty space for like 2 minutes for some reason, even though the audio is over and it's just black screen, no more. But to me, this is very suspicious, mostly because the attack at the end is far too brief, and it's not because the recording is cut off. So if I had heard, say, the kind of the screams in the dogman growling and some of the beginnings of what would sound like an attack, and then it cut off completely, that would be more plausible to me. But as you can clearly hear in the audio, the OnStar operator, Kyle, can still be heard saying, "Hello, are you still there?" Things like that. So the connection is still there and the audio is still being recorded, but the attack only lasted all of 2 or 3 seconds, which seems a bit unusual. And the fact that it goes completely silent after that, you don't hear any more movement from the creature, you don't hear any more movement from the people, which, you know, supposedly if the Dogman killed them, then you wouldn't, but you would likely still hear the large creature moving about the insides of the car with the 2 people that he has just killed. Now, the second piece of media that I'm going to talk about, it has long been known as the most substantial evidence given to the Dogman theory until it was debunked. So before I talk about it, or kind of go into the details, this is called the Gable film. Check it out. Alright, so that is the Gable film, and the story behind it, until it was debunked, was that it was found at an estate sale somewhere in Lower Michigan. It is an 8mm film, and it was in a canister that read Gable Case MP041177-1. And there is also a sequel to this film. Now that one I'm not going to show here just because it's not nearly as relevant, especially after the first one was debunked, and it doesn't show the quote-unquote creature that the first one does. So essentially what happened was the show Monster Quest picked up the Dogman story, and they found the creator, whose name is Mike Agrusa, I believe, or Agrusa. I'm not sure. But he immediately confessed that the entire thing was a hoax. It was completely put together. They did use 8mm film. They used an old camera. They found a car and snowmobiles from the 70s. So they made it as authentic as possible. And the creature seen is actually a man on all fours in what is called a ghillie suit. If you don't know what that is, it's like, it looks like someone like ran through a bush and took the bush with them. So you're just like a walking mass of leaves and mossy, hangy stuff and everything. So it gave a very kind of indistinct shape, and then down on all fours it had the look of being very hairy and very animalistic. And because of the quality of the 8mm film, you don't really get any sense of color. It's just a dark object. That said, I will give props to whoever was in the ghillie suit, because the way that he moves is very animalistic, especially the first few steps when you see him kind of jump to the side on all fours before charging the camera. That to me was really impressive and did give a feeling of a more animalistic creature, not a human. And even before I read the confession and how they did it, I had seen some debunking videos that were kind of analyzing that video, and there was still speculation there because people were saying that the person, if it was a person, that they were moving in such an accurately animalistic way that it was actually quite hard for people who were used to looking into that kind of thing to debunk it. So I thought that was really cool. So the next bit of evidence that I have is an image from 1961. It was said to be taken by a man who worked in a factory. He was a second shift. So he was standing on his porch having some coffee after getting home from work. It was about 3 in the morning, and there was a light post out at the, I don't know if it's the end of his yard or if it's the street, but there is a light post, and he caught some movement, and he saw what he believed to be a very large animal. And again, this is in Michigan, so very commonly we have coyotes. In northern Michigan there are bears. He didn't know what it was, so he went inside and grabbed his gun and came back, and he saw that whatever it was on 2 legs, but then it went back down on all fours, and it scared him. He was a bit alarmed at the unusual way that it was acting, so he went back inside and he got his camera. And when he came back out, it was standing beneath the street lamp, slightly behind the pole, and he got this photo. This was very, very popular for a long time, again, as evidence of the Dogman. But looking into some of the same sources that debunked the Gable film, some people say that it does have the properties of a manipulated photo. A manipulated photo. I can't speak today. Now the sun's coming in. Just ignore that. I'll try to. So it gets directly in my eye. Another photo that I would like to briefly talk about, because there isn't so much of a backstory on this one besides there was a boy. It's 2004. He's in the back of his parents' minivan driving and caught sight of this creature out the back of the car and took this photo. And I will also put up the kind of enhanced version because it is kind of a blurry photo. And again, watching YouTube videos kind of talking about these different kind of video and photo evidence that people say to have of the Dogman. This one was disputed by 2 different people, saying one man saying that he believed it to be real. The other investigator said that he believed there looked to be brushstrokes, saying that it was something that had been artificially created. And the last kind of image that I'd like to talk about for the Dogman, which I found was really interesting, is this drawing, which there isn't anything specifically saying that it is the Dogman or that it is a werewolf. I believe the signature in the lower corner says Brian Pininsky, and then it says 87 in the circle, so it was drawn in 1987. Again, I'm just kind of guessing. But when I look up Brian Pininsky, I could not find anything. I looked up some similar names or let Google kind of autofill some names, but I couldn't find any artists that were by that name or anything close, and I couldn't find any other references. And when I tried to trace the photo back to its original source, I kept finding it on Pinterest and things, and it's very shared, but it never really showed up in any specific source. So I'm not really sure what the origins of it are. Maybe somebody who is better at kind of digging into those things and has way more time than I do could look into it. But I could not find anything on it in terms of its origins. But if you type in werewolf on Google Images, this one doesn't really come up. If you type in Dogman, it comes up, and it is used in a lot of the articles and YouTube videos that I have seen regarding the subject. So regardless of whether that was the artist's original intent, this photo is very commonly used as an image of the Dogman. I'd like to go back to the idea of this chicken and egg theory. You know, was the Dogman something that already existed? Is it a real cryptid? Or did the song give life to a creature that many people had a vague understanding of, but needed more details to kind of cling to? And this is something that also relates to the Slender Man case and what is now called the Tulpa effect, in that perhaps the collective brain power of so many people believing in one thing could bring that being into life. A tulpa is a being created from the thoughts of one or many individuals, and it actually originates from Tibetan monks. In Tibetan myth, tulpas are a separate body created from a person's mind, and they would then use that to travel the spirit realm. But the article that I read about Slender Man and the Tulpa effect says, the Tulpa effect is the name given to the unintentional creation of a tulpa based on the collective belief of a being with similar traits. So in the case of the Dogman, this actually seems quite plausible because you have many people who believe in things such as Bigfoot and other cryptids, and there are many cases where people have had experiences and encounters with things that they don't quite understand, and then to be given this song, this idea of a being that has been around, this creature that has, you know, been here for years and years, gives people something to latch onto and say, that's what I saw. So perhaps while people are having these real encounters with very real things, they are using the theory of the Dogman to kind of make sense of that. So, is the Dogman fact or fiction? That is completely up to you. I myself have never had any encounters with anything I would consider a cryptid, but I love the stories and I think that there is very real basis for them. What people are experiencing is very real, and whether or not we can come up with what, you know, is a rational explanation for it, their encounters are something that it will always be very real to them and always very mysterious. You know, you never know if it was the real thing or not. So, yeah, let me know if you have any encounters such as that, if you have any comments on some of the things I've talked about, if you've heard of the Dogman before. I know, like I said, it's kind of a commonly Midwestern thing, but there are cases all over the world. If you would like to look into the resources and kind of do some digging yourself, I have put all of the information and sources that I found in, I'm going to do it in a pinned comment below because the description box does not need this much information. As always, my social media will be in the description box. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope that you guys learned a lot about the Dogman and maybe about Michigan too. And yeah, let me know if you are interested in these types of videos or true crime as well, and hauntings, things like that. Any kind of dark, spooky cases that can be kind of discussed and delved into. I really enjoyed doing the research on it, and like I said, I kind of fell down a rabbit hole that I didn't even know existed. So yeah, if you would like to learn more about things like that and you want me to do the research instead of you, let me know. I will see you guys in the next video. I hope you're having a great week and or weekend, and I will see you next time. Bye!